Good evening and welcome to Nothing But the Truth. We are witnessing a shift in history. For more than 4 decades, the Islamic Republic of Iran has been one of the most destabilizing and dangerous actors on the world stage. A regime that imprisoned, tortured, and killed its own people. A regime that funded and armed terror proxies across the Middle East. A regime whose leaders openly chanted death to America and called Israel the little Satan while America the big Satan, threatening the West with annihilation. And now the man who sat at the top of that regime, Ayatollah Khomeini, is gone, eliminated in a joint U.S. Israel military operation. This is not a minor development. This is the removal of the ideological and operational center of a regime that has shaped global terror networks for decades. But as missiles continue to fly and retaliation unfolds, the questions are urgent. Who is now in control inside Iran? Is the regime collapsing or hardening? Does this open the door to change from within or deeper chaos? How does this reshape alliances in the Middle East? And what does it mean for the safety of Americans here at home? There is no one better positioned to give us clarity at this time than Senator James Lankford. Senator Lankford is the vice chair of the Senate Republican Conference, a key leadership position in the U.S. Senate, and is a senior member of both Senate Intelligence and Homeland Security committees. He sits at the intersection of intelligence, national security, and homeland defense, and I'm so honored to have him as my guest at this critical moment. In this episode, we're going beyond the headlines. We're talking about command structure, succession, global strategy, domestic security. This is not a turning point just for Iran, but for the balance of power in the Middle East and potentially the world. My good friend, Senator Lankford, thank you so much for joining us.
Trudy, good to get a chance to visit with you again.
So take us right inside those intelligence briefings and bring us right up to speed on what's going on right now.
Yeah, I have had multiple intelligence briefings over the last several days. Obviously, there's a lot going on, and the situation changes literally every moment of every day. Spent quite a bit of time yesterday with Secretary Rubio and with the Secretary of War Hexteth and John Ratcliffe, who's the director of the CIA, walking through the different issues. The key aspects here is trying to be able to stay on focus on what our goals are. Israel has a set of goals. The United States has a set of goals. Israel's goals have been very focused on the people that are there that are directly threatening the nation of Israel. The United States has been very focused on the missile program, on trying to be able to stop their nuclear program, to be able to make sure that they can't continue to threaten the United States or our allies. So we have different goals, and you'll see it as it in the targeting that actually happens to try to focus in on what are the specific goals that each nation has. What we've seen in the last 48 hours is the United Arab Emirates get sick of being attacked over and over again. They're standing up and saying they're going to defend themselves. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and then multiple other nations actually engaging and saying we're going to make sure the Strait of Hormuz stays open, that the Iranians don't mind this. France is one of those countries that's now stepped out and said they want to be able to send ships into the area to be able to make sure that we continue to have an open flow of commerce through that area. So where you've typically seen a large group of nations actually respond in a united front at the beginning. This time it's the opposite. It's Israel and the United States actually taking the lead, and then other nations saying, no, we want to engage. We want to join that group as well to be able to put a stop to the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world, to be able to say, let's have a change in the region that is long and that is lasting.
So there are those that are saying that America got involved in this because of Israel. What would you say to that?
I would say America's involved because for the last 4.5 decades, we've been threatened by the Islamic Republic of Iran, going back to the very earliest days of the hostages for 444 days, the attack in Beirut, the murder of our Marines there, murder of our ambassador, the USS Cole. During the Iraq War, it was Soleimani and the Quds Force that was actually leading out to be able to train Shia militants how to be able to attack the United States forces, providing them with the equipment to do roadside bombs that killed hundreds of Americans and maimed hundreds more. We've had 180 attacks on Americans since 2023. And I think people lose track of that. that Iran and its proxies are constantly picking at America and Americans wherever we are. And what the president had to make a decision on is, are we going to allow Iran to continue to attack Americans over and over again? Or at some point, are we going to stop them and say, you cannot do this? The president made the decision, we are going to stop them from attacking Americans. Now, Israel is clearly our ally. We're going to continue to be able to work with them. That is our partner in the Middle East in so many ways. But we as the United States also have to make our own decisions as well to be able to protect Americans.
Why was the timing now?
So multiple things on the timing. One is after a long periods of time of diplomacy to try to get to a moment where Iran is going to stop its nuclear program. All of those negotiations have failed. The president negotiated all of last year. Iran refused to be able to stop its nuclear program. And so the United States, led by President Trump, sent over aircraft and dropped what's called the MOP, the Massive Ordnance Penetrator, right down the chimney of those nuclear facilities. That bomb was specifically designed to do that mission and has been sitting in America's arsenal for more than 20 years, waiting for any president to be able to use it. It's always been at their disposal. No president, but President Trump has chosen to do it. It's because diplomacy failed there. We said we're going to end your nuclear program. That should have been a stop then. That should have been a clear message to the Iranian regime that we know your address. We are not going to allow you to have a nuclear weapon. Instead, they started restarting from ground zero their nuclear program and said, no, we're going to have it. And they start again. Now, it would be a while before they could reconstitute that from the damage that was done. But they literally said, we're going to restart it. We started negotiations again, all over again, just as we did last year. And the Iranians were just stalling us the whole time. So this became an existential issue to say, this is serious. They're not going to stop until they get a nuclear weapon. We have had it as America's policy for decades now. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon and be the largest state sponsor of terrorism. So it brought it all to a head at this point that we have to strike again. This time, not just with a set of precision weapons on one spot, but this time to be able to take out all of their missile capability, their manufacturing capability, their nuclear capabilities for a weapon, and then also their Navy, which is going to lay mines down across the Strait of Hormuz. The president's been very clear, we're going to prevent you from being the power that's doing all these things.
Wow. Khomeini's dead, as our top leadership, tier one, and then tier two was then killed also.
Right.
So if the leadership has been decimated, who's running the show right now?
Well, they have an extensive bureaucracy in their setup and a clear chain of command of who goes next, and if someone is taken out, how they actually pick who goes next. That's not just with the supreme leader, but that's also with multiple layers in their own bureaucracy. These are true believers. These are Shia radicals that they are committed to their belief that all Jews are evil and terrible and need to be wiped off the face of the earth, and that all Sunni Muslims are terrible and also need to be wiped off the face of the earth. And so they are aggressive on the United States. Obviously, we stand for freedom and for opportunity for all, as Israel does. But they are aggressive to be able to do whatever they can as true believers to be able to rise up through the ranks and impose their will on everyone else around them. So this will take multiple layers to be able to convince them you cannot do this. You cannot go attack your neighbors. You cannot attack Israel. Israel is not going to be wiped off the face of the earth. They're going to be a thriving nation, as the United States is. What is not going to be a thriving nation is Iran, if you're going to lead that way. Now, I've tried to be very clear. Our beef is not with the Iranian people. It's with this regime that also attacks their own people and abuses their own people and tortures their own people. The brutality of this regime on their own people, as well as their terror proxies around the world, is well known to all. And so we're trying to send a clear message to the people of Iran. Our beef is not with you. Our beef is with the people that also are attacking you.
So the people who are calling the shots now could be fifth tier, but they're stepping right in, and then sixth tier will step right up too.
They will, until they reach a point that they understand we're not going to allow this to be able to keep going. So at some point, there'll be a couple of things that have to happen here. The IRGC, they're the ones with the weapons, that they are actually dominating their own people and kind of running the show behind the scenes here. The IRGC, we've got to see some cracks in that with some leaders saying, I'm not going to attack our own people. I'm not going to maintain this. President Trump's been very clear over and over again. We will give immunity to individuals in the IRGC if you will lay down weapons and will actually work to be able to stop this bloodshed on your own people and what's happening around you in their region. So the push is to try to incentivize folks to be able to step forward, take the lead, and then to be able to help Iran go a very different direction. The challenge is for students and for young people and for shopkeepers and so many different folks that continue to rise up and protest. They don't have the weapons. They get oppressed and get arrested and get tortured and get murdered, and their bodies left in the street as an example to others. So at this point, it's a rise up among the people of Iran, as well as a partnership with some leaders that do have the weapons to say, we're not going to allow this to continue on it. We're going to go a different direction. America does not want to run Iran. That's not the goal. Israel does not want to run Iran. We just want a peaceful nation there that can actually have peace among their own people and is not attacking its neighbors. We understand Iran will be different than the United States. We're not looking for that to be the same, but we are also going to make sure that after more than 4 decades, they stop attacking the United States.
So the president has suggested that new regime change should come from within the people themselves, as you just said. What about figures like the Shah's son? He has been very vocal all over media in terms of wanting to come in as a transitional head of state there. What's the position of the United States on that?
Yeah, there's not a clear position for the United States on the Shah's son to be able to step in. Quite frankly, he's not been in Iran in decades. He's a very sharp individual who has a love for the nation of Iran and for what she could be in the days ahead. But the challenge is going to be, it's going to have the trust of the street and the trust of the people that are there in Iran to be able to say, this is someone who's going to help us transition. Now, it's not going to be another dictator, we hope, that's going to rise up to be able to dominate the people. But this is going to be somebody that's going to help Iran actually move from where they are to where they could be. There's a very well-educated group of people all across Iran that hunger for freedom, that see the rest of the world, that have access to satellite television, that have access to the internet to be able to see what the rest of the world lives like. They want that, and they're craving that among the almost 90 million Iranians, but they're not given the possibility and the access to that. So ultimately, anyone that America tries to impose on the Iranian people is not going to work. This is going to have to be the Iranian people clamoring and saying, this is the natural leader that's actually rising up to help us transition.
So are there any people that have emerged as leaders there? We don't see anything like that in the news.
There's not an obvious one at this point. There are multiples that are in different ethnic groups. As you know well, Iran is not a single Persian ethnic group. It's multiple groups that are there. The challenge is you've got multiple states scattered around. This is a nation that is the size of Alaska. That is enormous, by the way. So it's a very large nation. It has a very diverse population. And the first challenge will be maintaining it as a single nation, because there'll be some people groups in some areas that will rise up and say, no, we want to separate out totally. We'll be our own nation on it. The Kurds in one region, for instance, have longed to be their own nation for a very long time. They'll say, we want to be able to separate out and form our own nation. So I think you'll initially see pockets of leaders in different ethnic groups rise up with the trust of that group, saying, hey, let's form our own semblance of governance here for just our own people. And then we'll have to see if there's a leader that can rise up to be able to unite all of those.
So are you saying that it's possible that Iran could break into different countries?
It is possible in a situation like this where you have no recognized national leader, that local leaders will then try to be able to break off and to say, this is our moment to establish our own type of government. We've been oppressed by central leadership for so long. We want to make sure that we're actually making sure there's justice for our own folks. So that is possible to be able to see, but there are a lot of things that are possible at this point, Trudy. So we're gonna walk through this process with them. We want to be able to encourage leaders. We want to be able to help facilitate their own leadership, but they've got to pick their own leadership. It's a bad idea for America to impose a leader on them They've got to do that through their own process, as difficult and as painful as that's going to be. And I think there's some folks on the far left media here in the United States that want it to be nice and clean. It's not nice and clean. It wasn't nice and clean for us 250 years ago. It certainly is not going to be nice and clean at this point with an IRGC that is focused on not facing international criminal courts and trying to be able to rise up and to be able to protect their own lives and their own families, their own corrupt fortunes that they have required from the people themselves. So they live a life that's very different than most of the people. They want to be able to maintain that, but the people are going to have to be able to press back on them.
So how do you deal with them? There's hundreds of thousands of them.
There are hundreds of thousands of them. It takes people from inside the IRGC and others that will rise up and to say, hey, we're going to go a different direction on this, either to walk away or to be able to say, hey, I'm going to join the people that want freedom. That's the crack that you've got to be able to see. So as you're going through multiple layers of leadership here, for people to awaken and say, you know what, the millions of people on the street are right, and the Ayatollah who's now dead was wrong, and to be able to take that different direction. I wish I could tell you the day and the hour on this, but this is pressure that we can put on them that will, by the way, increase. The pace of the attacks on Iran are not going to decrease. They're increasing now.
How long do you see this taking?
I'm praying for weeks, not months on this. We now have control of the skies in Iran. The first missions were taking out the missile launchers and then taking out their air defenses so that we could fly wherever we wanted to unimpeded to be able to take whatever strikes we could. A lot of our strikes were from long distance in the very beginning, so we could do a lot of those, but it took a lot of time to do it just because of distance. If we can then take out their air defenses, which we have done, we can move much faster and have bombing runs much faster and drop munitions on our select spots much quicker. The first things first is when you're talking about their missile capabilities, it's taking out the launchers. They have fewer launchers than they have missiles. So the first set of targets were taking out as many launchers. This is the old adage in war that you shoot the archers, not the arrows. And so we've been taking out the missile launchers one at a time by the hundreds. And we have now dramatically decreased their capability to be able to launch missiles. We're working on the same thing on their one-way attack drones that have been the worst of the attacks that have come into all of our partners around the region, taking out their capability to either manufacture those or to be able to launch those or to be able to have those ready to go for launch. So all of those we're working through right now, and that's going to accelerate the speed of this war dramatically.
It seemed that now Hezbollah has joined into the war, and they've started shooting off their missiles.
They have. They started with a very few launches, but quite frankly, Israel was already well prepared and expected Hezbollah to be able to join in. They are the lead proxy to the Iranians. My assumption is someone from Iran signaled to Hezbollah, hey, you've got to join in the attack. We fund you. We've sent you all those weapons. We pay your salaries. It's time you attack. I also am very confident that there are members of Hezbollah that think this is a terrible idea to be able to attack Israel because they know their lives are at risk, because Israel is well prepared for them to do this, has full awareness of where they're located, where their missiles are located, and where their leadership is located. So Israel has responded as they should to be able to protect themselves, to be able to take out senior leadership of Hezbollah already, to be able to go after their missiles and their missile launchers, to be able to put pressure on the government of Lebanon, saying you have a military force in your nation that you don't control clearly. And some of the Lebanese leadership and the prime minister has already spoken out and saying there should not be a military force there. This is wrong, condemning Hezbollah. But then that also gives the green light to Israel to be able to step in and say, if you can't control them, we're going to control them to be able to make them stop. We've got to eliminate the Iranian proxies that are Hamas and the Houthis and Hezbollah and the Shia militants that are in Jordan and in Iraq. And also thriving in some of the hinterlands in Syria. Those, we've got to be able to cut off the funding to them so they're not getting a paycheck, cutting off the weapons distribution to them. Those are the key things that are happening in Iran now, but also making sure their senior leadership changes their ways significantly by not being there anymore. And the next set of leadership deciding, I don't want to be like the last leader that just had munitions dropped on his head.
So it seems like Iran is acting in a very irrational way in that they're now striking all of the other
Right.
countries. They hit Saudi Arabia, Turkey. Most recently Turkey, UAE. What's the strategy?
Well, what's interesting is this is actually Iran acting like Iranians in the sense that everyone is their enemy. As a Shia radical organization and entity, they hate everybody that's in the region. They feel superior to everybody else in the region. They hate that anyone else in the region cooperates with Israel or the United States. And they feel superior to everyone, and so now they're just launching against everyone. But what they're doing is reminding everyone that this is the nation that hates you as well. They hate Israel, they hate America the most, but they also hate the Emirates, they also hate Saudi Arabia, they also hate Turkey, they also hate Bahrain. So all of those nations are now being reminded of that, and it suddenly becomes the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So this situation is now causing everyone in the region to join into our coalition and to say we're going to stop Iran from doing this because we know they have wanted to do this all along. They're now taking this as their opportunity to attack everyone, and now everyone is going to turn and attack them to be able to make it stop.
It seems so crystal clear to everyone that this was necessary and that Iran had to be stopped, had to be annihilated before they developed nuclear weapons,
Yeah.
which seems to have been very, very soon. And that was their goal, that was their objective. But yet, Democrats are arguing the opposite, that there wasn't an imminent threat,
Yeah.
that the United States didn't need to do this. And now they're forcing a vote on war powers.
Right.
So, what do you say to that? That
Yeah, my first thing is there's a difference of opinion of what an imminent threat really looks like on this. Very clearly, Iran was rapidly rebuilding its ballistic missile capability, and they were pushing very hard to be able to get thousands of missiles all in place to be able to form a threat, to be able to say, you can't attack us. We're going to develop our nuclear weapon. As they're developing their nuclear weapon, they're developing more conventional weapons. They're also developing the technology to be able to launch their nuclear weapon and to be able to send it wherever they chose to, whether it be an ICBM towards the United States, or whether it be towards Israel, or towards Europe, or towards UAE, or wherever it may be. So they're actually have a twofold purpose here: build up enough conventional weapons so they couldn't be attacked while they're building their nuclear weapon, so then they can never be attacked, and so they can actually move their terrorism everywhere. The threat now and the decision about the threat is, when do you decide that's imminent? When they've said that they're going to do that and they're actually putting things in place so they can do that, or until they already have the tens of thousands of weapons and you can't attack them anymore because the cost is too high. The decision from President Trump and from Benjamin Netanyahu was, we cannot wait until they have all of that. We see the intent, we see the process, we see what they're doing. If we wait too long, then it's a much greater risk to all of us in Israel and all of us in the United States and all of our allies in the region. So the decision was, we've got to move now. We see what they're doing. This would be the decision to be able to say, someone is walking towards a pistol to pick it up and is saying, I'm about to shoot you, and they're walking towards it to be able to grab it. Do you wait till they grab it and turn around and fire it before you actually defend yourself, or do you stop them before they actually do it? That's the decisions to be made there. The second part of this, people forget, there's about 750,000 Americans that live and work in that region right around Iran. Obviously, hundreds of thousands of Americans live and work in Israel, but you've also got Americans that live and work in Bahrain, in the UAE, in Saudi Arabia, in Jordan, in Egypt, and in Turkey. You've got a lot of Americans that live with there, and we're very clear with this. We stand with Americans wherever Americans stand. So if you're attacking Americans in that region, you're still attacking America. So the left has been very focused on, there's not an ICBM that could hit the continental United States. If you can hit Americans and your intent is to kill Americans, which clearly they were, and they were working that direction, then you are someone we've got to stop.
very frightening times, really very frightening times. But I want to actually bring the conversation home to our land here with regard to Homeland Security.
Yeah.
Are there Iranian-backed terror cells inside the United States that we need to be concerned about right now? We just saw the shooting in Austin where the person was wearing an Allah is great shirt.
Right.
How prepared are we?
We are prepared. The biggest challenge that our FBI has here in the United States is that lone wolf actor that rises up. And yes, we do have Iranian radicals that are here in the United States. It's been one of my frustrations I've had for years. During the Biden administration, with our wide open southern border, we knew there were Iranian backed individuals that were crossing our southern border, that were coming into the United States. It's one of the many things that I threw up. There's something called special interest aliens. These are individuals that come from known areas of terrorism, but we don't know anything about them. We had 70,000 individuals like that move in just 1 year under the Biden administration, where literally they could say, we don't have any criminal record on them, so we're not stopping them, but we're also designating them as an SIA because they also come from an area and from a family where there's known terrorism in that family. The Biden administration didn't stop them. None of them should have gotten through, but those individuals are in our country right now that we know very little about. So that is a very serious issue for me. It is my frustration right now that Democrats continue to be able to block funding for the Department of Homeland Security. They're so angry with ICE that they're blocking funding to Coast Guard, to our Homeland Security investigators, to TSA. Remember that DHS was formed after 9/11, 2001, because we were missing some of the aspects that we've got to make sure we don't ever miss again. It was formed literally after radical terrorists from the Middle East came and attacked the United States soil. Literally, as we are dealing with radicals in the Middle East right now, we're not funding Homeland Security. I think this is a huge mistake from Democrats. I'm very proud of a lot of DHS folks that are not being paid right now that continue to be able to stand at their post. But we also have individuals that cannot be there, that they're furloughed right now because of the shutdown. We've got to get this open. I spent a lot of time on the phone this weekend talking to different Democratic senators saying, you've got to get over this. We've got to be able to get DHS open on it. We are literally in a period of conflict. We need to be able to have all cylinders actually pumping to be able to protect us, including, by the way, Trudy, cybersecurity. One of the biggest threats that the Iranians have is their ability to be able to attack by cyber means anywhere they want in the world. And right now, what's called CISA, the cybersecurity folks for DHS, are not being funded right now. So it is very important we get it all open again.
So behind closed doors, where the media isn't watching, is there an understanding on the part of the Democrats that there are these huge risks and that they are there because of their supposed love for the country and, they're serving the country in terms of making sure that we are secure and that there is, that they have the best interests at heart for us?
Yeah.
They're hearing the same briefings that you're hearing.
Yeah.
Why are they not responding?
So what's interesting is there are Democrats that I've talked to in the Senate that do understand the risks that are out there, but they're also afraid of the far left base in their party, because the far left base in their party hates ICE more than they hate Iran. And they are consumed with hatred towards ICE and don't want to fund it. And quite frankly, to them, Iran is not an issue, but ICE is an issue. And so they continue to be able to rise up and say, why are we attacking Iran? These are the same folks, by the way, that were protesting against Israel going into Gaza and taking out Hamas, because they also don't see Hamas as an issue either. I do, and most Americans do see Hamas as an issue and Iran as the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world as an issue. So we want to go ahead and make that stop. We also want ICE to run professionally. They need to be able to do their job in a professional way. But we see Iran as the clear threat. We see Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis as the clear threat, not ICE. So Democrats have got to decide whether Iran is the problem or whether ICE is the problem. And when they actually come to that decision, I think they will finally make the right decision. But right now, they're all just talking to each other, trying to decide politically which one they're going to decide is the bigger threat.
Wow. Well, I hope they come to it really
I do
quickly.
too.
There are some major issues going on right now. How does China play into all of this?
So what's interesting is Iran is one of the major suppliers of oil to China, and Iran has very few allies in the world. They have Russia, they have China, they have North Korea, and they have Venezuela. All of those have made public statements in their support of Iran, but have not given them actually any military support or any financial backing in any way. Literally, Iran suddenly found out you don't have any friends. So they are very, very isolated at this point, where China is just making public statements but not doing anything to be able to support them. And China is then looking for other sources where they can actually get their petroleum products from to run their economy. So it is interesting just to be able to watch how isolated Iran really is. They have not made friends. They have made enemies all over the world, and the people they thought they were their friends because they were supplying weapons to them or oil to them, they're finding out are actually not loyal to them. The other one is Russia. The Ukrainians can tell you that the Iranian one-way attack drones have been the most lethal form of Russian attack that have come onto them. Iran has been the main supplier of weapon systems to be able to kill Ukrainians. That is all going to come to a stop immediately as the United States is taking out all their production facilities for these one-way attack drones, and they're not going to attack us or the Emirates or Israel with those one-way attack drones, and they're not going to supply them to Russia to be able to attack the Ukrainians anymore either.
Wow. So that should really play a big role
It
here.
will.
Last question. I want to be respectful of your time. I know that you have another meeting to go to. Um, do you think that the energy piece of this that you had just mentioned was part of the strategy and calculus here? We took out Venezuela, Maduro,
Mm-hmm.
and now Iran. Do you think that the global oil supply was a piece of this for the United States?
It is significant. Really, the more significant issue is the terrorism aspect in Iran. This is not about having a war about oil. Iran is providing sanctioned oil to China and to other places, but we've sanctioned Iran's oil for a very long time, and President Trump has been very aggressive in putting maximum pressure on that economy, leading with their oil production to try to dramatically reduce the amount of money that they're getting from their oil. So the only place they can put it is with this shadow fleet at a much reduced rate to be able to get out there to reduce the amount of money that they can get. There is enough oil that's out there to provide for our economy. The United States in the last 20 years has dramatically increased production. This is where fracking has become very significant. That takes the United States to one of the leading producers of oil and natural gas in the world. We're now dramatically exporting natural gas all around the world. We are the largest exporter of natural gas in the world now. That is our economy that has shifted from we're dependent on the Middle East to now the rest of the world is dependent on us. So we're not seeing the giant increases in gasoline prices and diesel prices that we would have seen in the 1970s and 80s when we had conflict in the Middle East because the United States is supplying its own needs for energy. Now, the cost of energy, this is one of those interesting factoids. The cost of gasoline is not based on what it costs to put it in the tank, it's what it costs to refill that tank at the gas station. So you do see a higher price now because that is coming to them. They also always base the price of what they're selling now on what it's going to cost to refill. There will be a bump in price for a while because there is destabilization globally, but it is not near what it was in the 1970s and 80s. Based on the wars in the Middle East because we are energy independent.
Wow. Okay. Lots to think about. Senator Lankford, thank you so much for joining us
You bet.
tonight. It was really very, very important, and our conversation underscored something profound that is not just another foreign policy moment, but it's a historic inflection point. History is being made right now. The elimination of Iran's supreme leader marks the end of an era, but it doesn't mark the end of danger. Power vacuums are unpredictable. Regimes under pressure can become more desperate, as we discussed here. And what happens overseas never stays overseas for too long. This moment will test leadership, it will test alliances, it will test whether the United States remains clear eyed and resolute in confronting those who threaten our security and stability of the free world. We are so grateful to you, Senator Lankford, for your insight, your clarity, your service at a time when Americans are looking for steady hands and serious voices. So thank you so, so much.
Thanks, Trudy. Keep praying for the nation. There are a lot of threats that we face right now, and we are the United States of America. We have to take these on. It is part of who we are as a people, but we do not tolerate people actually putting a gun to our head. We're going to make it stop. We've learned that lesson from 9/11, and we've learned it well.
Well, with people like you in leadership, I feel much more secure uh, for our country and for our people. So thank you. To our listeners, thank you for being with us. This has been Nothing But the Truth with Trudy Stern and our very special guest, Senator James Lankford. You can catch us every Thursday at 9:30 p.m. on the radio. Or if you missed any part of this show or you want to listen to any of our past episodes, you can find Nothing But the Truth wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, stay strong, stay informed, and keep seeking nothing but the truth.